Well, Donald Trump's critics accusing him of not paying his taxes. But top supporters defending him today after the New York Times report claims that he had claimed a $916 million loss, almost $1 billion, in a 1995 tax return. And the paper says that possibly allowed him to avoid paying federal taxes for nearly 20 years. So what will the fallout be from this tax controversy as the Clinton campaign continues to call on Mr. Trump to make public all of his tax returns, something, as you know, all the other major presidential candidates have done for decades. Joining us now to talk about this, Brian Robinson, former communications director for Georgia Governor Nathan Deal and president of Robinson Republic, and Jessica Ehrlich, Democratic strategist and former Democratic congressional candidate. Welcome to you both. Brian, let me start with you. I mean, Rudy Giuliani, Chris Christie called Mr. Trump a genius today because of this tax issue, or is he a hypocrite?
Well, I wouldn't say that he's a genius. I would say that he's super wealthy. I think that you'll find that if everyone released their tax returns, the super wealthy in America aren't paying what the rest of us are paying in taxes, at least on a percentage share basis. So to say he's genius isn't really, I think, all that accurate. His accountant is probably pretty good, and the tax lawyers that he has around him are excellent, as are those of most of the super wealthy in this country.
But the other super wealthy, they're not running for president. Here we could potentially have the first presidential nominee in the history of this country since income taxes were imposed first in 1913 who may not pay taxes. Brian?
Well, as I've said on your show before, I believe that our nominee should release his taxes, just as I believe that Hillary Clinton should release her emails. I think Hillary Clinton should take Donald Trump up on his offer from the debate. Notice that she didn't respond to that at all in the debate, saying, if you release your emails that allegedly have been deleted, that are allegedly not classified, that are allegedly not official, then I'll release my taxes. Well,
Jessica,
let's see her do it.
Jessica, is that a legitimate argument from the Democratic side? I mean, how do you think this will potentially hurt Mr. Trump if it does?
No, I mean, it's not an apples-to-apples argument in that sense because, as you said, we haven't had a presidential nominee since prior to even 1980 who didn't release their tax returns. We've never had anyone who's released all of their emails, let everyone in to see what their communications are about their daughter's wedding or any of those sorts of things. So it's not really an equivalent argument there. It's a false equivalency. You know, however, it's interesting. I mean, people were really in uproar when Mitt Romney, finally revealed his tax returns, and he was only paying 14% tax rate, but at least he was paying taxes, and he was really hit hard because of the type of business he was in, but he still was a very wealthy man who gave a lot to charity and gave a lot of success to his partnership that he was in. Whether or not you agreed with him dismantling corporations and putting people out of jobs. Well, Donald Trump is someone, I mean, to say he's a job creator when he has all of the people that were affected from the bankruptcies, the contractors, the people who lost their jobs, the unemployment. I mean, it's just epic. And then he pays zero in taxes. It's kind of shocking, and yet his supporters think he's a genius. They don't see
Brian,
anything wrong. It's an interesting dynamic.
Where's the uproar from some?
Go ahead.
And the firestorm that you would expect would come from finding out that a presidential nominee may not pay any taxes.
Let me tell you where there was a false equivalency. I want to respond to that. Where it's not equivalent is that even the New York Times acknowledges that not releasing your taxes and that using the tax code to not pay any taxes is perfectly legal. Now, they buried that in the 18th graph of the story, but it is there. Where it's not the same as what Hillary Clinton did was illegal. And again, even the New York Times would acknowledge that.
No one has said that that's actually the opposite of what, the FBI has said, all of the investigations, the multiple hearings, and everyone that's looked into this. What no one has been able to look into are his taxes. Illegal. So it is a different, it's a different thing. No one has said that either one of them has done anything illegal here. But the problem is Trump's tax plan does not address the loopholes that allow him to not pay taxes.
Well, Jessica, this may not be a loophole. It may be, I mean, his supporters say it's the law. You can get these deductions. You can take it off of his business expense. But bottom line, do you think that this will have long-term resonance? I mean, he has attacked wealthy people who have not paid taxes before. He had called it ridiculous in the past.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, that's part of the issue. He's talking about corporations who are going overseas so that they can avoid taxes. But he's basically doing the same thing. So, yes, it's the pot calling the kettle black. Can he fix that? I don't know. I don't think it'll affect his supporters. Where he needs to gain in order to actually become president are with swing voters. And I don't see this really, helping their decision in terms of, oh, is that someone that they want to vote for?
All right, Brian, last word.
But I agree that this is not an issue that Donald Trump needs or wants to be talking about. He needs to pivot back to jobs and the economy. Hillary Clinton set a not-so-clever trap for him in the debate. He walked into it and then refused to get out of it. We need to pivot back to an attack on Hillary. Americans care more about her breaking the law and how she used her emails than they do about taxes. We know that from polling. He needs to be focused on that.
All right, we'll see if he's focused on that 1 week from tonight, because that's when the next presidential debate will be. Brian and Jessica, thank you for weighing in on this.